But here's the real threat. It's not just the euro and whether that exists next year or what have you, but the Brexit too threatens the very existence. Now, the City of London is what created the LIBOR, which we know is a huge issue because every contract that matures after the end of 2020 must be reset. And it really, the biggest problem is around all of those derivatives that are created by all of these benchmarks or the LIBOR that needs to be transitioned. In the EU, they too have the new benchmark that they're trying to push. But can you see all of these balls in the air that they're trying to juggle? Do you think it's possible that one or two or all of them could absolutely fall out? Because I do. Because frankly, they have to come to conclusion on this Brexit. And they haven't been able to do that. And that's really the sharing arrangement in the financial system. Because if they do a hard Brexit, which means that they leave without those agreements in place, which frankly, we're right at skin o' teeth right now. So that is the most likely outcome. It will throw the derivative market into a tizzy because no derivative contract of any kind, could be a US derivative, could be an EU derivative, it doesn't matter. No derivative would be able to clear through the LCH, which is in the City of London. That's any derivative contract. And especially those legacy derivative contracts that are still hanging around that were created prior to 2008. So we could see a derivative explosion that cannot be covered up because I'm telling you, with the roiling in the markets, there are a lot of derivatives that are imploding, exploding, shifting, and moving. We just can't see this. We can't see it really easily and clearly. But come March 29th, come before that. That's why the market's going so crazy. Because they know that this deadline is fast approaching, and they know that the impact to the derivatives market and the ability for them to smooth out these rough edges may actually evaporate as early as March. So it's really no wonder that you're seeing these markets move like that because nobody really knows what's going to happen. This is all foreign territory and it's all based on these derivative experiments that they know exploded the system in the late 90s with long-term capital management and then again in 2008 and is it going to be in early 2019? It very well could be. It seriously could be. Because part of it is that if they lose access, if the plumbing, so to speak, in the derivative market is not clear enough for everything to flow, they're not going to be able to net out their derivative contracts. You know how we've talked about them having the ability through formulas to make this whole market look a whole lot smaller than it really is, and how nobody really knows what the value at risk is, and the BIS admits it, the IMF admits it, everybody admits it. Everybody admits it. Nobody really knows what the true value is at risk. But what we do know is that it's something like 200 times the global GDP. Ain't no bailing that out. I'm sorry, but it's just a fact. And we're about to be faced with this. And nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen because we've never been here before. This is an experiment that could easily go kaboom. Very, very easily. That's why I've been telling you, if you guys haven't been preparing, if you haven't made a move, if you've been sitting on the fence because, oh yeah, maybe the markets look a little bad or whatever, but that would never happen here. then what you really need to be clear on, and it is a choice, it is seriously a choice, is that all of your wealth left inside of this fiat system that is so full of disease, it's going to swallow up any wealth that you hold inside of it. And they've been using these last 10 years to get that position set. And so they've set it up, I mean, you can look, and this little orange area is loss absorbing bonds, right? Well, that didn't even exist before 2017, and it's about doubled between last year and this year. And now we're moving into the next year. So what I found really interesting too, honestly, is that individuals have been moving away from buying those kinds of bonds because, let's face it, there's been a lot of bail-ins in Europe, and particularly in Italy, in England, in Portugal, in Ireland. I mean, there have been a lot of bail-ins in Europe. And so people have gotten kind of gun shy. Well, there was a way around that. And that was to inspire institutional investors to pick up that slack for individuals. But here's the problem with that. It's not the institutions that suffer, because those institutional investors are actually investing your money. So if you're sitting in mutual funds or ETFs or variable annuities, or, I mean, there is definitely a space in here with insurance companies utilizing these things. But if you've got a pension plan, if you've got a retirement plan of any kind, you might think consciously, well, I'm not buying that kind of crap. Guess what? You're holding it. Whether you realize you're holding it or you do not realize that you're holding it, frankly, it is not relevant. And we can see right here, these are the investment funds. These are the individuals. Huge difference, because individuals don't want to buy this crap, but they still are, even though they didn't realize it. Shockaroo. Guess what? When you stand up in front of a judge, you can say, I didn't understand. And it doesn't matter, because frankly, when this wealth is gone, it's gone. I don't know what else to say about that. It is simply a fact. And so we can see that this risk is being transferred to the public and to the individuals, if not from the balance sheets from the banks. And if you think it's only happening in Europe, well, this is in the US, and we're seeing the same kind of behavior. And they're growing that depositor base because it's what they call sticky. Normal public depositors don't run. They leave their money in the bank because they feel safe. They say, ooh, my deposits are insured. They feel safe. Well, I'm pretty sure they felt, in fact, I know, they felt safe in Cyprus before that was bailed in. And it took years before people had access to whatever they had in the bank. And anything above that insured level was gone anyway. So by the time they actually had access to their accounts, because of the devaluation of the currency, they got back less anyway. Do you see what I'm trying to show you here? If you keep your wealth inside of the system, whether it's a savings account or checking account or brokerage account or retirement account or insurance account, it doesn't matter. This garbage, because Wall Street can make money on these intangible contracts. And you agree to it because you deposit your money there. You trust them. That's why that confidence is so important. If you didn't trust them, you'd make a different choice. You'd take your wealth out of the banks. You'd hold it in physical gold and silver. And actually, I'm going to show you, because I just got this today. I practice what I preach because I know what's coming. I see it. I watch it. I read all the information. And why this box is so hard to open. Barterable gold, which are, these happen to be sovereigns, which are roughly 1/4 of an ounce. They pack these things really well. I just bought a few of them. There you go. Barterable gold and barterable silver. These happen to be Philharmonics because they're pretty. It doesn't matter. They're physical. These cost a bit more of the rounds, but it doesn't matter because both gold and silver are ridiculously, severely undervalued. And this is what I trust more than these pieces of paper. No, they're not even pieces of paper. Than these contracts, which is what they want you to have confidence in. But I read too much. I don't have confidence in them. And what are the tools that the governments have and the central bankers have? Well, look at these yields. You are not getting paid for the risk that you've taken on. And we've all taken on whether we want to or not. Whether we're in the system or not, it's going to change for everybody. For those that are prepared, there'll be opportunities created. For those that are not, it's not going to be a good thing. Because the interest rates are anchored somewhere near zero. And in the European Union, they already have well over 7 trillion in bonds that are in negative interest rates. And what do they use? They use debt and they use interest rates to inspire people to take on more debt and spend more money. There are limitations. And this should not look stable to you. It should not look safe to you. It doesn't to me. Not at all. And it doesn't to the markets. And that's why we're seeing this behavior. Because the markets know that there's a lot of poopy that could be hitting the fan a whole lot sooner than anybody realizes. UK will leave the EU on March 29th. March 29th. Doesn't mean nothing happens between now and then. Look at this. They're anticipating it. And even for those financial corporations that have made the choice to move their business to, well, France, there's lots of countries that are vying for this. Not all of them have done it, and it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not a quick thing to do. So it is quite probable, to be perfectly honest with you, it is quite probable that it's already too late. A hard Brexit will destroy the system. And so, what's the response? Well, the EU Parliament agreed. They had put these very heavy liquidity rules for gold in that would have cost traders more than 300% and killed anybody making a market in there, in the fiat markets. I mean, that doesn't mean that the demand for gold would go away, because gold is used across every single aspect of the global economy. But they eased those rules. And what is the ECB doing? They're accumulating gold. It's the only thing that is really a safe haven asset. It's the only thing that can really protect you.
Why would it say zombie?
So I've really shown you what the problem is. And I've shown you what to do about it. This is what I'm doing about it. As well as food, water, energy, security, community, and shelter. If you want to know more about it, well, this is what we do. We tailor these programs to your goals and needs. I've studied this currency life cycle since 1987, and I developed a strategy based upon the repetition of history. That's what we specialize here, everybody here. If you're working with them, you're working with me. It really is that simple. We are a team here. You cannot protect debt with more debt. You cannot stave off a debt crisis with more debt forever. They've done it for a minute, but I believe they have reached their max limit.